So welcome again. This is what I wish I knew before graduating from school. And it's a series that started in AIA Austin Women in Architecture. And we're super excited that El Paso chapter reached out to us to collaborate in this year's event. Let me see. Next slide. I am the current Women in Architecture Chair, Alexandra Chavez. And with me, joining me always will be Danielle Smith, it's my chair-elect, and then I'm presenting Stephanie Barrios Virrieta and Isis Sepúlveda, which are the WiA El Paso chairs and the WiA El Paso chair-elect. Thank you, all you guys, for making this a successful event. Before we move forward, we always want to thank our sponsors, and we made this amazing slide so you can all take a moment and see why we can make this event possible to you all. We have the WiA sponsors on the one side and the El Paso sponsors on the other side, and without their support, we could not put programming like this one. So thank you to all the sponsors. We're not going to read them because otherwise it will take too long, but we wanted to acknowledge them because without them we couldn't do what we do. And today's session is called Mind the Age Gap. And I'm going to introduce the moderator, Janki DePalma. I am super excited to hand it over to her to talk about a little bit more about what she does and why she's the moderator for this session. But I want to also take a moment and thank her because she is the founder of this actual call to action initiative for the College Salon series. So thank you, Janki, for leading this effort and for being the first moderator.
Of course. Welcome, everyone. We are really, really excited to have you here. For all my attendees, if you would indulge me, pop in the chat what school you're from, either if you're a student now or if you went to school a while ago and it's a little bit in the rear view mirror, but we'd love to see where our reach is. As Alexandra said, my name is Janki DePalma. I am the Director of Business Development at W.E. O'Neill Construction. I'm also the subcommittee chair for this call to action. And it is one of my very favorite things. It is what we dub a Salon series. And really it is our look back at all the things that we wish we knew when we were in architecture school. And so this topic in particular, I think is going to be a fun one. It's called Mind the Age Gap. And it is just going to be a fun discussion about sort of like how the different generations see things. Right now in the workforce, you have up to maybe 4 or 5 generations being represented, and people see things in different ways. So I think we're going to have a really fun discussion. What I'm going to do is I'm going to briefly have each of the panelists introduce themselves by saying these things: who they are, who they work for, and what school they went to. And then I will kind of give us a framework of what this program is. So let's start. Julie, are you able to introduce yourself with who you are, who you work for, and what school you went? Oh, I think Julie just popped up. Let's start with Andrea. Who are you? Who do you work for? And what school did you graduate architecture from?
Sure, I'll jump in. I'm Andrea Freiburger. I am with FGM Architects, and I went to WashU in St. Louis many years ago.
That doesn't matter. That's cool. Awesome. We're popping around. Let's have Tooba. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tooba. I work at WiA Architects in Austin, and I went to Virginia Tech.
Nice. So. Daphne?
Hi, everyone. I am Daphne Salcido, and I work for Stubbs Engineering as a doctorate technician, and I'm currently at El Paso Community College studying architecture.
Wonderful. Well, let's get started. One of the things we thought would be kind of fun is to talk about the different generations and sort of the the stereotypes we have, right? So what whether you agree with them, disagree with them, kind of talk about that. So I will preface one thing, is that no generation's a monolith, right? Just because a group of people came from one side, one end to another, doesn't mean we all think exactly the same. And everything we say is our own opinion. I see Julie's back. Yay! Julie, are you able to introduce yourself? Tell us who you are, who you work for, and where did you go to school? Oh, you're muted. One moment.
Let's see if I can do that for her.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can
Yeah.
hear you. Can't see you though, but I'm happy to hear you.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear
Yes.
you. Go ahead. Oh, all
Okay,
right.
can you hear me?
Yes.
What a nightmare. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hello? Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but I wonder if you can't hear us.
Okay, I can hear you now. So,
Okay, perfect.
so my name is Julie Vetter, and okay, hi. My name is Julie Vetter. I'm a licensed architect in Texas and New Mexico. I'm the chair for the Education Outreach Committee for AIA El Paso, outreach for WiA in El Paso, and am really happy to be here.
Cool. Wonderful. All right, let's jump in. So we're going to have some fun playing around with stereotypes. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to talk about, the different generations and what, is typically known from them. And then we're going to dive into some scenarios, which I think is going to be fun. And I want to preface this by telling you how this topic came up. So I'm a Gen X, and although deep down I kind of feel like a millennial, and but my son is a very, very young Gen Z, and he started his first like real internship and last summer, and we noticed that he had made different choices than we thought like a young professional should make. And we were beginning to see that this was something that might be generational. Like we were like, you should be doing this. And he was like, no, I'm going to do this. And that's kind of what spurred this talk, because it was an interesting thing where there's no like a holistically right or wrong answer, but it's just how people act and then how it's interpreted. So this is something I think it's going to be fun for us to dive into. I'm going to actually mix it up a little, and we're going to go with Andrea, because since we're both Gen X's, I'm going to read our list, and I'm curious your thoughts on if you like what you agree with and what you disagree with, right? So Gen X, born between 1965 to 1980. So the positive traits of Gen X are independent and resourceful, adaptable to change, tech savvy, early adopters, and valuing work-life balance. But some of the negatives that come with that is they can be skeptical or cynical, less collaborative, latchkey kid mentality, which means they prefer autonomy over teamwork, and they are often overlooked between boomers and millennials, which I will jump in and say yes, because a lot of times when you look at the list, they forget that we exist. But okay, I won't take your thunder. Andrea, unmute yourself. Tell me, what are your thoughts? Agree, disagree? What's going on?
I thought I was overlooked because I was a middle child.
Turns out because we're born in this in this particular time period.
Right. I guess we couldn't help it. Overall, I actually agree with most of that. And I know, Janki, when we went through our run through, you had talked about preferring to be independent and less of a team player, or maybe that was from some bad experiences in school. And I
Those
had those
group
same
projects, right?
I had the same bad experiences. Yeah, like one or two people end up holding, carrying the weight of everybody in the group. So yeah, I think it's pretty spot on.
All right, very good. I appreciate your candor. Okay, let's see, Julie. You want to hear your baby boomer traits?
Sure.
All right. So baby boomers, according to this definition, is from 1946 to 1964. So the positive traits are loyal and committed to employers, strong work ethic and discipline, experienced and knowledgeable, and valuing face-to-face communication. The negative stereotypes that go with this generation are resistant to change or new technology, hierarchical in thinking, workaholic tendencies, and you might struggle with the whole work-life balance. Thoughts?
Mhm. Yes, I do believe that I have a lot of discipline. That's spot on. Like I said before, I was raised by a German dad, so I think that was, you know, an indicator that I would be very disciplined as well and sort of perfectionistic. But yeah, I think that that's pretty spot on. I think that I'm pretty loyal as far as, you know, when it comes to a company.
Mm-hmm.
And just trying to think.
What do you think about workaholic tendencies? Agree?
Yeah, definitely workaholic tendencies. I'm usually the last one to leave. I do struggle with work-life balance. It's sort of like either one or the other suffers, and it's hard for me to, you know, get home in time and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. So
Yeah.
that's
No,
definitely
this is
spot
part
on.
of every generation is like has its thing. All right. Let's pop into my millennial Tooba. We talked about this last time. So it's actually, so we had to look up pre-talk and had such a fun time discussing those. So positive traits. All right. Purpose-driven and socially conscious, collaborative and team-oriented, comfortable with tech and innovation, and you value feedback and growth. On the flip side, the negative stereotypes, entitled or overly idealist job hopper, need constant praise or validation, and overly reliant on digital communication. All right, let's hear it. What do you think is like, nope, shut that down? What do you are like, yeah, I
Well,
agree.
to be honest, a lot of it is true, even though I don't want to accept my negative stereotypes. But
Okay.
there are some aspects to it that I feel like our generation is like we got a taste of life before technology, but then also had to adapt so quickly that
Mm-hmm.
we had to like just keep going with whatever was thrown at us. So
Mm-hmm.
definitely, I think that's why we really like the collaborative and team effort, because I really value that in all areas of life, not just work, but other areas as well. And I have hopped around in terms of jobs, not because I wanted to just leave those jobs, but because I didn't feel like fulfilled or I didn't quite find my purpose there. So I was like, I'll just move on to the next place I find that. So I see a lot of things I do think they are true. Yeah.
Very good. So I also will mention now, I can't speak to the baby boomer generation, but I will say that almost at any point when you are the youngest generation entering a workforce, you are deemed the worst. Like we were slackers as X, and then I remember millennials are considered entitled, and now I have my Gen Zs, and let's go through there. So Daphne is going to be representing my Generation Z, born from 1997 to 2012. And your positive traits are you're a digital native, extremely tech savvy, entrepreneurial and pragmatic, inclusive and diversity minded, and you value mental health and flexibility. But the negatives, the flip side is short attention span, lacking interpersonal skills due to just always being on screen, easily distracted or disengaged, and you prefer texting over talking. What do you agree with? What do you disagree with?
Well, I do agree with the stereotypes. Tuba said, it's quite difficult to accept the negatives, but it is true. A lot of it comes from like the screens and all the new technology. I do believe that our generation does have a quite good adaptability and like innovative mind to keep on going in like those those like what is better, what is next, instead of just staying on like a solid ground. So I think it's good. We keep improving and we keep moving forward.
That's perfect. I love it. Okay, so here's where we're going to have some fun. I'm going to give a scenario that you might see in the workplace. And I want to ask your thoughts on this, both from like your point of view and maybe just kind of like what you think. This is sort of like we're all going to jump in, and because it's like we're not able to like see each other in person. If you have an idea, just kind of like show me, or like show me in your face, and then I'll call on you and we'll just kind of like riff around a little. For my audience, if there's anything that we talk about that like sparks like another question, pop it in the chat, because we would love to then dive in deeper when we have the discussion time. So I'm going to read the scenario and I want to hear your thoughts. Okay, so here's the first one. Your firm has a really big deadline. The partners routinely stay until 9 p.m. Even though they're not paid overtime, they are owners. A junior employee who is salaried but not a partner leaves at 6 p.m. and then works on tasks the next day. They're still on the timeline, but every day there's some work left. Later, a manager comments that everyone should be pitching in, kind of implying that staying late is expected. Additionally, a partner suggests that during busy times, everyone should work in person, even if it's your scheduled work from home day. Now, okay, so that's the scenario. What do you think about this? Like, are there thoughts? Let me hear, like, what do you think about this scenario? Okay, Julie's making a face, so what do you think?
I mean, I tend to agree with those partners. I think that, if they're staying late and there is a deadline, that, you should stay and work late as well once in a while. I don't think that it should be like a regular thing. And I don't think that, I mean, I don't know. It's weird. I think you should expect to do that as an architect in general, because it is a very demanding job, and regardless of whether you're getting paid by the hour, you should definitely expect to work more than 40 hours a week. That's just how the profession is, I believe.
Andrea, we're gonna play. So this is as if we were like sitting on a sofa. So okay, I want to hear what you have to say.
Julie, I think unfortunately that is what the profession has been like. I'm maybe breaking out of my generation here, but I am really fighting to make our profession not like that. I do think, sure, if there's a big deadline, it's wonderful if you can get everyone to pitch in and put in some extra hours. But I think that for everyone, you need to make it clear, hey, we're going to make this up to you. Maybe we work 50, 55 hours this week, but next week, you know what? Let's work 30 or 35. And unfortunately, we maybe further advanced in our careers are really bad at holding even ourselves to that. So those are my thoughts.
That's all it is, right? It's just
Yeah.
what of anybody else? Because also the people who are staying late, they're equity partners, right? Anyone feel like I should be able to leave at 6, and anyone willing to admit they should leave at 6?
I guess like sometimes I viewed it as like, if I have been given a certain amount of work and I've done my work and I have a commitment that I have to get to after work, I would leave. But if I don't, and it is close to a deadline and we're all pulling in late nights, then I will pitch in and be like, okay, can I help on something else now? But it is about like asking myself, what do I need at this moment? Because I have put in my time and I've done my tasks, and it is after 6 and I'm not getting paid overtime. Should I stay? So it all depends on how much we need each other at that moment. Like if I feel like the other person is not able to finish their task, then I will definitely pitch in. So it's like I will evaluate the situation based on that. Yeah.
But there's also, let's make sure everyone else is muted.
Nuestras largas
y
nuestras cortas.
Oh, hold on. Let's see
Sorry.
if we can.
Yeah, there's somebody.
That's okay. I think it's Georgina. Are you able to mute her?
I did. I just did.
But there's also optics, right? Like, even if I'm done and I leave, how does that look? Like, Daphne, what are your thoughts? So this actually came about, not to throw my own son under the bus, but this was one that was actually inspired by him, who routinely left his internship at 6:30 while the rest of the team stayed till 9. And his response was, those are equity partners and I'm not. So Daphne, what about you? Do you feel like you should stay? Would you work from home versus coming in? Like, what are your thoughts?
So, I mean, like I understand that there's deadlines and at work there's been sometimes like hard deadlines that we have to meet, and sometimes there's not enough like employees, but at the same time, usually the team leaders or the management team usually stays later due to like the experience and everything. Sometimes I put in my time and I'm like, okay, yeah, I have, like Tooba said, if I don't have another compromise and I'm willing to like, put that extra hour and like help the team as like a team player, I'm willing to put those hours in and like work more or like work throughout the weekend. Although I do think that working from home is not like harmful if like there's still like that productivity that those hours are still being made. And I've met a lot of people who like work from home much better, more productive at home than in the office for like comfortability and more like focus. There's like at the office, there's like your coworkers, you can get like distracted really easily. So usually a lot of people like
Oh yeah, that was one of the things, right? For Gen Z,
yeah,
who's
yeah.
getting distracted.
So like there's tends to be like a lot of coworkers and like conversation sparks out and then you just start like talking and talking. And sometimes working from home is fine, like can be more productive and more um like it's better for a lot of people. So I feel like if the work is being done and if we have time if as like the lower
Like a
team,
junior staff.
yeah, junior staff is able to help, then the help is welcome. But I do feel like the the management team and all those people who have like actually equities in the company, they are working for their own wallet and they're working for the company. So, I mean, it's something that eventually junior employees will end up probably having those experiences and they will be the ones staying like super late. But I do feel
So
like,
I'm going to pop this over. So this is the second part of it because you brought this up. Working from home, you have a deadline. So let's say it's not that day, but let's say you're headed towards, let's say it's a permit set. So it's pretty hardcore. And let's say your office has like people can call their work from home days, but deadlines, like leading up to it. How many people feel like for certain things, like you just have to get yourself in the office? Like, have anybody feel like there's a certain distinction where you must be in the office?
Yeah, I mean, I think I think especially during a deadline, it's important for everybody to be in the office. However, if the employees are not used to working in the office and as a team, I think that can be a problem because I've had that problem myself where normally everybody's working from home and then all of a sudden there's we got the deadline and then it's like, oh my God, everybody's in the office. How does this work? Like, what do we do? I mean, how is this structured? So I think if you kind of have to practice working together, if that makes sense.
I've
In
never
order-
heard this. This is really fascinating because I always hear people being like, you need to be in and hear and overhear things, but I've not heard anyone admit to like the clunkiness of what it can mean sometimes when you're not used to doing that. That's interesting.
Yeah, you have to, come together, not just for the deadlines, but at other times as well, and work in a group as a team, all in one room in the conference room or whatever. Otherwise, I think it can be troublesome and lead into more problems and make it harder. Yeah.
Anyone else? Any other thoughts on that aspect of working from home versus being in the office? Andrea?
Sure, I'll jump in. I find that for myself, it's easier if everyone is in the office that I'm working with, because if they're working from home, I tend to forget about them. So, so I think that's definitely probably a generational thing, just because it's, I've worked in offices where we're sitting 5 feet away from each other, and it's like you don't even, there's no, you just say what's on your mind, and then the question gets answered or whatever. So I think that's more a limitation of myself. But in terms of productivity, I think I'm kind of aligned with what everyone else is saying. If you work better at home, then work from home.
Yeah, but that is a difference. It's an interesting thing about like the optics, right? Like of like a big deadline and being in the trenches. But then I think about this right now in this phone call, like in our discussion, I'm at home and, making sure people and animals are fed and, things are like
Right.
all those little things that would be very difficult if I were not in the house. Uh, Anyone else have any thoughts? Tooba, you're in the middle of these generation. What do you think?
I mean, I definitely value working as a team. So I do like the times that we do get to work in the office, but I feel like we should have the option to work from home. Like I know a lot of offices are like really pushing for the idea that we should not be at all working from home. And I don't really agree with that. I feel like some people definitely do work better from home, especially when there's a deadline and you can keep working. You don't have to commute. You just don't have to worry about leaving your comfort zone and just keep getting the work done. But I've also noticed that when people are too comfortable working from home, they don't have the same kind of interest in the job as like others. Like they only care about getting their work done and that's it. There's no social aspect left to going to a workplace. But I value that kind of connection, is why I go to a workplace, is to make connections beyond just the work I do on Revit. So I think there's a time and place for working from home, but it can't take over completely, especially for our profession. I can't say that for all other professions, but like architecture does need some kind of in-person collaborative work sessions.
That is a really interesting comment though about like the why of being in the office. Is it for like trust building and like interaction, or is it to like for the work and the productivity? And you all bring up in like both sides of that. I think that's really, really interesting. All right, let's play around with the second one. This is a real story, as I've told all of you. Okay, so here's the context. You're in the office and someone casually mentions that they work best with the TV show playing in the background. Others say that that is absolutely unprofessional, that the only thing you should be able to listen to is music. What are your thoughts? Is having, Parks and Rec streaming in the background an okay, background noise, or is it unprofessional and you should only be listening to music? And what would you say if someone disagreed with you?
Well, I saw a YouTube clip the other day about of an officer on a motorcycle watching a cartoon while he was on duty on his iPad on his motorcycle. So,
Okay. I'm guessing you thought that was unprofessional.
Yeah, I think that's very unprofessional. I mean, not only, is he not paying attention to what's going on around him, but he could get in an accident.
Okay, so while not you're not operating a motor vehicle, you're stationary. So both my kids will have TV or something as background noise while they're cranking out homework. This I feel is a very personal but also possibly generational thing, because I listen to music and I know my parents would always say that that's not appropriate while studying.
Well, I cannot personally, I cannot listen to anything while I'm working. But like my daughter, my 17-year-old daughter, though, she needs to have music on with whatever she's doing, especially doing schoolwork. So
yeah, but then someone could argue that the TV is just the same thing.
I know. I mean,
I know, right?
I don't agree. I mean, on the music, I think that's fine. I mean, if it's just kind of like your preference, but like when it comes to TV, I don't really agree with that because you kind of have to follow along, and it's just I think it's a distraction.
Okay, anyone like think that, you know what, as long as you get your work done, it doesn't matter what you have in the background?
I wonder if a podcast is just TV without the visuals. I don't know, because you're listening, people, I think it's just like you want somebody to be talking in the background and
Mhm.
you just keep working.
Yeah.
I do find it kind of weird. I've seen people in my office watching, or like listening to videos while they're working. So I kind of find it weird because also growing up, my parents were like, you can't watch TV while you're working or things like that. So I think it's just been ingrained in my mind. But
Mhm.
then I thought about it. I'm just like, I listen to podcasts all the time when I'm working, and I'm not even really paying attention to what they're saying. I think I just like something just happening in the background. So isn't TV just the same thing?
Mhm.
So I guess it's just like I don't really think it's different than
So
here.
this is a real story. So this really happened, and the owner of the
Oh.
firm identifies as a baby boomer. The TV watcher was a young intern, and she brought this
Mhm.
up, and she was just like, I just can't. And I thought this was really interesting because I don't think this intern thought that he was making this impression
Mhm.
by watching TV because everyone else is listening with their headphones to music. So it was just like, what's the difference? But I thought it was really fascinating because it had a negative implication in, while he was in the office. Any other thoughts? Like if you walked by and saw a coworker with the thing, like a Netflix show, and I'm going to assume it's like something very innocuous. It's nothing like a risque or, violent or anything like that. Um, would you say something? Like, would you say, hey, I think that's unprofessional, like as friendly advice? Or would you defend them if someone else said, you know what, that is completely unprofessional that they're watching, you know? Yeah, well, Andrea,
I
what would you do?
I go back to if they get their work done, it's hey,
Okay.
whatever floats their boat. But I'm really curious, Daphne, to know if you have done this too.
Well,
Not to put you on the
um,
spot, but yeah, kind of
Yeah.
putting you on the spot.
yeah. Well, as for me, I believe that like my parents, again, my parents really put that like, oh, you can't be watching any shows or like music, it like distracts you. So I think it was also like part of my education. But I mean, I've known a lot of people who like do that, and I've seen them, and sometimes I also hear like their bosses saying like that's like extremely unprofessional, you know? And so I have heard like the both sides of the story. I've personally never done that because I tend to just be super aware of like of everything that I do, and mainly because I'm young too. I don't want to get like the wrong impression because I've met like older people with much more experience, and I know how they like think. So I've always been super aware of like of everything I do, and I feel like it's just the way I was like raised as well. Um, but I personally like, for example, when I'm doing my models, I tend to have like a background show just to
Mhm.
have like something that I already watched. And so I don't really
Yeah.
get engaged with the show. But when I'm like doing like work or something, I usually have like a podcast or like some like music, and it tends to like help me focus to just have like do my work, but it's just like a preference that I have. But I've never like done that, and I've seen like other people do that, and I don't really like. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're being productive, like good for you, you know, like everyone has knows their boundaries, everyone knows themselves, and if you know that you can be productive in that way, then that at the end of the day, that's what matters.
It does, but I think you bring up a really interesting, um, like you're straddling a couple things of seeing what people like might default to, but then also really being mindful of what your parents, I guess, or other older, more seasoned professionals have told you about how it might be interpreted. And so
Yeah.
that I think is really fascinating because it's the I think it's the understanding of how is this going to be interpreted versus even the intent. Like I, without even knowing it, might come off as unprofessional, and maybe someone might not even tell me when I'm, a summer intern, and I've now maybe lessened my chances of getting an offer at the firm because they've like made these decisions based on kind of like it's not stereotypes, but it's just kind of like how they interpret things. All right, let's play around. We got a couple more. So remember, if you have questions or if you disagree with us, this is a friendly forum. You can pop that in the chat and tell us why you think it's okay to be watching whatever show you want to. All right, so here's this one. This is, I keep saying this is a real story. This one actually isn't, but I think it happens a lot. Okay, so here's the context. A senior leader regularly sends emails late at night and on the weekends. A younger employee feels pressure to respond immediately, even outside work hours, but is trying to maintain a live-work balance. Often, though, when they don't check those emails, they will return to the office and find so many emails and are so confused. What do you do? What do you do? Do you just let, like, this really has to do with like work preference. All right, my girl, Andrea, what are your thoughts?
Boundaries.
For whom? Who
Everybody,
has
I would say it's as soon as you start responding after hours, it's on. So forget it. Resist. Do not
Okay,
respond.
so then you come
Limit.
back.
Yeah.
And now you're like, I can't follow this email thread.
Oh, well.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I think
that's
it's,
that's your advice.
I might write emails at 9 o'clock at night, but I do not send them until the next morning.
That's where delayed
So,
delivery is
yeah.
a glorious thing.
Exactly.
You might have time. I do that too, because that's when the kids are asleep and I can crank out some ideas, but I don't expect you to reply. Anybody else have, like, what advice would you give for this younger employee who's like, I don't know what to do?
So I have a couple of friends who have fallen into this trap where they did respond to emails after work and the boundaries were completely blurred. And I've learned from their mistakes. And then I personally never respond after like a certain, like at 6 p.m., I guess, is where I would say, even, and my office kind of also has that policy that you could send emails, but don't expect to get a response after work hours. And I personally also had an older, like a boss in my previous job who would write emails super early in the morning. Like he would get up at like 4 a.m. because he had kids and stuff. So he would start sending out emails at 5 or something. And I would wake up and I would have like this whole list of emails. So at first I was like, does he expect me to respond? But he also kind of set that boundary. Like he's like, this is my work style, but I don't expect you to start responding till it's the work hours. So I think do not respond after. And if that's something that bothers you, you could have a conversation with your higher ups that, listen, this is really distracting, or not have Outlook on your phone or something, or have it on silent after hours or something, just to keep that line really tight, not blurred. Because I've
So
seen.
did you ask, like, when you were seeing the emails, did you say, like, am I supposed to respond to this? Because I think if you were a younger employee, you might, and like, let's say they pay for your phone, right? And you're like, am I supposed to, like, I see the email, am I supposed to respond? Like, did you ask clarifying questions at your work?
It was a little confusing because I was new at this job and I was working with this person who was just sending emails at 5, and I was like, I don't get to work till like 9. I'm not going to respond. And I mean, he was nice enough to like, don't worry about it. That's just how I like to work in the morning. Like I like to send out emails quite early. So there was a mutual understanding, because I did get panicked in the beginning, because I was like, hey, I'm sorry I didn't look at all of your emails. Like, I don't know when you sent these, because there weren't any there when I went to bed, but there were so many when I got up. But it was like mutual understanding. But then I know certain friends who have responded, and then they're now stuck in that kind of after work or sort of response cycle.
Ooh,
Yeah. So
interesting.
Yeah.
All right, Julie, as a team lead, are you here? I don't know if you popped off.
I'm here. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So as a team lead, what do you say to either your senior, like a senior PM, or your junior staff about this? Like, have you given any guidance about what time is acceptable to send emails, or what is the expectations in replying to emails?
Not really. I just, I've just sort of left that up to just the individual. I think, like, personally, I typically don't respond to emails, after hours, unless there's some emergency going on.
Okay, well, that's good to
but
hear.
as you get more experience, you tend to find out that it's sometimes it's better just to wait until everybody just kind of talks it out. Like if there's an SMS going on, or like this huge string going on, it's like let everybody talk it out, and then usually it gets resolved on its own. And then you don't have to respond. I mean, you can just say, oh yeah, I'm glad everybody worked it out.
So this actually, as a piggyback, I want to like add this to then, and I want to hear anyone's thought. What do you think about texts? Like, is that on the table? Like, because it's one thing to email, but then like, what about people texting you? And is that appropriate, inappropriate? Should it still follow business hours? What about clients? Like, do you give your phone number to clients? And do you have any expectations on, or do you have any boundaries on when you do and don't respond?
Mm-hmm.
I like toss that in.
Yeah, like, I mean, when it comes to a client, I think you do have to stretch the boundaries a little bit more, but and I think that texting is a great tool just for quick check-ins or quick communications. However, I'm sorry about the beep. However, yeah, I mean, I think you still need, I do believe that you still need face-to-face communication, and I believe you still need emails if there's something more complicated. I mean, it's like some people, I think, kind of abuse the texting and they rely on it too much, and then when they're communicating something very complicated, they, instead of switching to an email or a phone call, they just keep texting and texting. And even if it's like super long, and I think that can lead to problems.
Yeah, very true. Daphne, we've let you kind of marinate. What are your thoughts? Like, pretend you were this younger coworker and all of a sudden there's like this flurry of email. What pressures do you feel? How have you dealt with this? Like, did you talk, would you advise that they talk to people? Like, what would you do?
So for me, when I started working, I started working full time during the summer and then part time when I started school. So I work every other day. And so at first it was quite difficult for me to get I've gotten emails when I don't use like my non-work hours, which was already scheduled, yet sometimes it was about a deadline or sometimes it was about some marks that had to be done. And I was like, well, I don't work those days. So at first I did come to like that, I guess that issue where like I kept responding every time they sent me an email. Later on, I realized that it was not productive. And so I learned from my mistake and I started having like a certain time from on my like during my days to like check my email and follow up and be responsible and be like, oh, well, you sent me an email. I'm not working today. Is this taken care of? Or do you want me to take care of it when like tomorrow when I work? So I started having like a time slot to check my emails. Also, well, I get a lot of emails due to other organizations that I do, like at school. I'm part of the Architect Society, and I have to like do the paperwork and like connect with people, and if like the advisor needs something. So also that like again with the messages, I feel like people do send me messages quite often if there's like something like that has to be like done, and it's usually for like the society that I'm in. So I do find that like more I focus more on that rather than like I don't find that like unprofessional. I feel like because I am the president of the Architect Society, I have to be like attentive. But for work, I find I have to like have like that time slot of like, hey, I'm gonna open my email. I'm gonna check my email. Is there anything that has to be taken care of right now? And if not, I can take care of it tomorrow. So I have that time slot, so it's more productive rather than checking my email every single minute of the day I end up not doing that much things because I'm focused on my email. So
That's such a great habit. I don't have that. So I think it's hard not to see that little like that little icon and go, okay, what do I have to do to get rid of that little envelope icon?
yeah.
Yeah. But I think it sounds like for everybody, boundaries are the number one thing, and just being like talking about it and like understanding what the expectations are, even if someone else's work style is like that's their flex style is to send emails at midnight or 4 a.m. or whatever, but like really establishing what the expectations are. So here's my last one. And then we're going to open it up to questions. So if you have questions that you've been thinking about, pop them in the chat. Okay, so this is having to do with social events. Forced family fun is what I call it. So here's the context. The company holiday party is strongly encouraged for all to attend, but it's after hours and unpaid. Some employees really feel obligated to attend, others feel resentful, or they feel excluded. Others think that this is exactly what you need to build teams. Is everyone comes together and you have a good time, let your hair down. What are your thoughts?
I don't believe it should be mandatory to attend a holiday party. I think it should be optional, but I do think that it's a very good team building event, and yeah, it's great to celebrate your accomplishments and just celebrate the holidays and celebrate each other, you know. I think that people should attend, but I don't think it should be mandatory.
All right, very cool. Anybody, it looks like Andrea, you were about to unmute yourself. What are your thoughts on this?
Sure. My thoughts are, and I actually did run into this situation many, many years ago when a coworker was feeling resentful and was, you know, saying, I don't want to go to that, blah, 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 for whatever
Do you have to
reason.
get a whatever babysitter? Like I have
Oh,
plans.
no,
Like,
because
yeah.
no, I think because he was mad at his boss at the moment.
Oh, okay, even more.
Yeah. So my advice then, and I think I still hold to it, is you have to keep in mind the context that here the company, your employer, is wanting to do something really nice and they're trying to show appreciation. And if you are capable of going and accepting that, you should absolutely go because, you know, take it. It's like be gracious. But if by going you're going to sit there and you're going to just, you know, bring the whole mood down or you're going to resent it, then absolutely no, do not go. Don't ruin it for the rest of us.
Interesting.
That's kind of
Okay,
my
so
take.
that was a different reason for not going. Okay, anybody else? Any other thoughts? Like, what would you say to somebody who felt like it wasn't fair to have this obligation?
Well, I don't
To
think it's an obligation, right? Like I've never worked at an office where you're forced to go.
well, it's strongly encouraged. Let's say that's the culture. So if you don't show up, everyone's gonna be like, Tooba, where were you? Like we missed you at the party, and you know.
Well, if they're being that sweet, then I'll go. No, I like I said, like for a question before that, I really like the social aspect of going to work. Like I'm like, why do we go to an office is to interact with people? And even if you have like certain things that you don't agree with your bosses, I think it's still important to have to show up. Even if you have disagreements, it still is important to be there and enjoy. And you don't have to stay long. You don't have to stay for the whole thing. Just be there for the amount of time you feel like you are comfortable. And then, I mean, always there's always an after party or things like that. And I never feel like I have to go for that. I know there's a lot of peer pressure. Hey, we're all going after some this. So I never fall into that peer pressure, but I still feel like as an employee and your office is doing something for you annually, it's kind of important to show up. And just enjoy it as much as you can, and then you don't have to stay later. So I would encourage someone to think about it more about like it's good to build your network and go there and talk to the people you don't maybe get to talk to otherwise in your firm.
That's an excellent advice, and I agree with you. Don't go to a second location.
If
Stay
you
at
don't
your.
want to, if you want to, you can.
It's like
but if
when
you
you're
don't want
getting
it, then you
kidnapped.
shouldn't.
Don't let them
Yeah.
take you to a
Yeah,
second
yeah,
location.
yeah. Yeah, that's where things get crazy, the
That's
segregation.
yeah, that's never a good story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Daphne, have you yet had a holiday party, or has this come up for you personally or your friends?
Yeah, that has happened. Like every Christmas, there's like a holiday party and like,
Mhm.
like a event. And yeah, it is like strongly encouraged. Like usually everyone goes and
Mhm.
but I do feel like, I mean, as of me, I mean, of course, I won't, nobody will like agree with everyone's like way of being or like how they are, but I feel like we should always be open-minded and just like see it objectively, like, oh, I mean, like always have like team bonding or like, those annual events are also for you as an employee, it's like all your work. It's a company paid party, so I feel like it should be appreciated. But at the end of the day, if you don't feel like comfortable going, then you shouldn't. You just shouldn't like feel forced to go. There's always like just a simple no. I do feel like in my experience, sometimes people say they will go and then they don't, which I do feel like it's quite unprofessional because you get like that spot and then you just end up not going. I feel like you should just be like upfront, yeah, I'm gonna go or no, I'm not gonna go. And you shouldn't feel like that pressure of like, oh, everyone's just looking at me like horribly because I'm not going. But yeah, I mean, always speak your truth and always feel comfortable with yourself.
That's very good advice. I will also add, unsolicited, that even if it's an open bar, it is a work event. So don't forget that. So don't make that mistake. Or I've seen too many young people like take this the social part a little too seriously, and you're still with like coworkers and your boss and stuff like that. All right, so we have a little bit more time. We want to open it up for questions, because in particular, like the whole heart of this program is things I wish I learned when I was still in school, right? And I think this dynamic of how you approach things might be completely different than that of your boss or your manager is really, really valid. So I want to pop in, see if there are any questions in the chat. Ooh, let's see where we've got some UT, Texas State people. Look at that. Awesome. UVA, UNM. Wow, we got a lot of people from all over the place. Does anyone have any questions that they thought was like something, or thoughts on what we heard?
Don't be afraid to unmute yourself,
You can
Sam.
also unmute yourself. We
Yeah.
love hearing you. Oh, okay. Someone popped. Oh, that was our own panelist had our own question. I love it. I'd love to talk more about boundaries with clients. Ooh, that could be its own discussion for another whole panel. Yeah. Uh, Andrea, what are your thoughts? Like, what's your story? What do you have a specific scenario for us to play with?
Sure. Well, yeah, this
Yeah.
is going back to the context of kind of responding to emails, or,
Mm-hmm.
segueing
Or
even
text
into
or whatever.
text right
Yeah.
after hours. And I, to me, it's just so important to remember that, I mean, your clients are your bosses too. And we do get to choose who our bosses and clients are. It might take a few years before we actually kind of weed out, or, funnel down to the ones that we really want to work with. But, think about that too. It's like, i- if you're responding to every text and you let them take over your weekends and your evenings, that's not a sustainable life that, I don't want to live like that. And just value your boundaries. That's really all I wanted to say.
I think that's really important, because kind of like what Alexandra said, like you teach people how to treat you, and you can do it in a way that is never, it's still not rude, but just not answering it could simply be an answer, right? And I'm old enough where I remember having okay, there's this thing called a desktop. I don't know if a lot of the students know what that is, because I don't even think my kids know what that is, but it's like my computer at work stayed at the office. I had no way to access an email unless I physically went back into the office. And looking back, there was something very glorious about that. Like, Like I answered emails when I got into the office and I couldn't see it. And only executives had a phone that back then was called a BlackBerry. I'm that old, but I remember I had a Nokia phone that just had that just was actually made as a telephone. So it kind of avoided these things. But I think, Andrea, your point is really good. Like you aren't actually providing better service by being completely accessible 24/7. You're providing better service by doing a better job at what you're doing, like, and not getting burnt out. That's like really what your clients pay you for, is for those, like your design services or your architectural services. Anybody else? Any other questions that popped in?
Danielle, do you want to mute yourself and ask that question?
Yes.
I sure would love to. Yeah, so I'm curious. I know we've talked about some of the challenges, but I would love to hear a positive reaction to working with different generations. So my question is, what is something that you have observed, admired, and adapted yourself from another generation in the workplace? And how has that changed the way that you yourself work?
I love it. Intergenerational. Like, yeah. I can't see my panelists because we're not pinned anymore. So unmute yourself and
I
tell
can
me
take
what you
this
think.
one.
Love it.
So the one thing I have really I struggle with is calling people, and I've talked till that if I don't have to call, I won't call. But there is something to the fact that if you call, you get all the answers answered. So I have really started to, embrace that from the older generation. And also I've been telling the younger generation, hey, let's just call these people and figure this out. But I know how much I also love avoiding the call. And then the one thing I really loved about Gen Z is that they really love to give feedback, both positive and negative. Sometimes it might be just too much, but I really want feedback. And usually you don't get it from the older generations. Only once a year during the annual review, they tell you, you've done good, you've done bad. But Gen Z like to say what they feel at that very moment. And they also really like to tell you you've done a good job on a daily basis, which is so encouraging for someone who's kind of like looking for validation, and nobody has done that. So I have started doing that back to the other generations as well. If I see something good somebody's done over the day, I don't hold back. So those are some of the things, that I've.
Ooh, I love that. That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's really good. Anybody else that they've learned from, up or down, that they're Daphne, you unmute it, and then we'll have Andrea.
So for me, I'm the only Gen Z in the office. So everyone, like I've learned a lot from everyone from all the older generations, mainly about confrontation and like being sure of ourselves. I feel like at least for me and like a lot of people that I've met, we're very like unsure about a lot of things. And I feel like the older generations are very much like, okay, like push yourself and like you always have to like, confrontation, which I feel like our generation doesn't really like do much again with the like calls and stuff. We don't really like confrontation. So I feel like also that has been like quite something that has helped me grow as like a person, as like a coworker as well.
I think it's fascinating that a phone call is seen as confrontation. That was like my main form of communication, as like, especially at your age, like as a child, like it was like epic phone calls. So I think it's such an interesting thing. Andrea, you raised your hand when what have you learned up and down?
Oh, I did. So I think that I have learned some fantastic collaborative tools from the younger generations, and especially Gen Z. It's just so clearly this is your native habitat and it is not mine. And it's really awesome to see how seamlessly, you can work. It's, bringing up your screen and moving things around and, making changes in real time, and all while leading a meeting. And it's really awesome.
That is very cool. Julie, what about you?
Yes, I'm always inspired by the younger generation. With their fluidity and their their tech savviness. I'm just in awe of, you know, what they can do and figure things out with just a couple of clicks here and a, you know, click there. And it's sort of like they just move so fast that I can't even keep up with what they're doing, you know. And so I know, like, I really appreciate Daphne, for example, because like she really helped me with my the education outreach this year. And you know, she was my go-to, you know, for like all the social media and all the technical things, and just now trying to, you know, figure out my technical issues, you know. So it's awesome. I really embrace the technology. I'm one of those baby boomers that is just really encouraged by technology and I even though I love I think that everybody should learn how to hand draw and hand sketch. I think it's, you know, the 3D animation now and all the laser technology, and AI, everything is just amazing, and it can really, you know, help the profession and make your life a lot easier. So.
Yes, definitely. I'd also say I really admire, I'd say definitely it's a Gen Z trait, maybe a millennial trait too, of there's like a why question, but it's not like the questioning of why might is not like because they don't want to do a task, but I feel like there's always this question of like, help me understand the motivation for why we're doing this. Like, and it helps you look at like, what are you accidentally doing because you've always done it this way? And I found a lot of younger people will bring up inefficiencies that we have just learned to work around. And then they'll be like, why are we doing it this? And you're like, I don't know. Like, we just have always done it this way. And then they'll be like, here's something that'll save, like, they could do it way faster. And you realize that that questioning actually helps like create like be help you like look at what's working and what's not working. And I think for a lot of us like who came from a different generation, that was almost seen as rude. Like if a boss told you this is the way you do timesheets, you're like, I guess I'm doing it that way. And now you'll hear someone go like, why are we doing it? It seems really inefficient. And it is now bringing up some like better conversations. So I definitely appreciate that. Any other questions or thoughts? Any Gen Zs out there who have questions for us more seasoned people as you think about entering the workforce?
I actually have a question. If you can hear
Yay.
me. Hi
I
guys.
can't see who you are, but I'm very proud of you for asking a question.
Just kind of going off like everything you guys are saying, I guess as Gen Z, we're so, and just like being like in school with
Mhm.
internships and everything, we touched on like setting that first impression kind of, or setting the right impression while still setting boundaries. I guess
Mhm.
kind of how do you do that in a way when when we're like with older generations and things like that who, you know, are set in their ways, but you know, but how do you set that right impression?
Yeah. Do you have a scenario in mind?
Um, let me think. It's trying to think how I guess like mainly when you're first like going into it, I guess in like a job, maybe getting interviewed kind of in a way, just kind of selling yourself. How do you do that while setting those boundaries, you know, as a Gen Z person, if that makes
Yeah.
sense?
So who's here who in our crew does hiring or helps with interns? All right, let's because truth be told, I'm not an architect. I just hang out with architects all the time. I'm not a designer. So Andrea, what are your thoughts? Like, you know, JLO's coming in, you know, wants to so I'm assuming part of it is like you want to seem eager and like flexible and willing to work, but at the same time, not like I'm willing to work all hours, anytime, anywhere. I have no boundaries, right? But how do you not look difficult? Because, right? So how do you do? What's the magic answer, Andrea?
Um, for me, the magic answer is always curiosity. If you ask questions and you show that, you know, you are curious about this and you want to continue to learn about this, that stands out more than anything. And I mean, I'm trying to think of a specific scenario where maybe you would run up against a boundary. You know, maybe someone says to you, well, we have to be in office 5 days a week.
Mhm.
You know, maybe that really is just not working for you because you need to finish up this course or something. Then just, you know, bring it up and say, hey, I'm sorry, on Fridays I have to go to this course in person. Would it be okay if can we work through that? Um, yeah, but
Yeah,
curiosity, be curious.
I think so. And then I think knowing the difference between being useful and valuable. And I feel like the usefulness comes from the no boundaries. Like I'm accessible 24 hours a day, but that's like easy to get commoditized. But if you're able to know like what you do, even at whatever level you're at, that is valuable, then you can make it so that like when I'm in, I'm rocking it. So I don't have to be available all day, every day. But when when I'm in the when I am working, kind of like Daphne is like, when I'm working, I am focused and, I know what I'm doing and you don't have to babysit me. Just give me my list and I'm working, right? Like Daphne, what would you recommend? You're in the same generation. Like,
So, there's a question that I asked after I got hired, like a couple months later. Um, they told me that a lot of like why they hired me, why they gave me that offer letter was because of my curiosity of like my will to like ask questions and like know more. When I got that job, it's a like a drafter technician, so I do the construction documentation of the construction documents for a structural engineering firm, which I've never had any experience at all. And so they were just like asking me and like telling me like the workload and like my like what I was gonna do, like the daily tasks. And I kept asking questions and like my will to like learn and my will to like be able to take all of that was why they gave me that offer letter. And I feel like just that like will and like presenting yourself as like, yeah, I am willing to like do this, I'm willing to like learn and ask questions without like any hesitation of like, oh, well, I'm just gonna do it halfway through because I don't understand this. That's what a lot of companies are scared of because a lot of people just do it just how they think they know of, like they think they know it, but they really don't. So it's good to like ask questions and have that will to learn. And I feel like that's what like mainly everyone is looking for.
I would totally agree. Um, ISIS is next, but I gotta like stop this whole thing. Jayla, I'm so impressed that you asked this question because all of us are friends. We all kind of know each other and we had all asked questions. And I'm really, really impressed. I'm so happy that I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm very impressed that you did this. And I do hope I will tell all of you all, everybody here whose name you see who is an adult, please connect with us on LinkedIn. Almost all of us are here. And like you can keep the conversation going because I think that's great. But it takes a lot of like, I don't know. I'm very proud. I always encourage my own son to do that. Like that's the way you get ahead is like ask questions, make yourself known. And you're right. Isis, I've rambled too much. Let me hear your question.
Hi. Okay. So, I know that a lot of the panelists are involved in other committees like Julie or Daphne and even yourself, Janki. As somebody who is involved in WiA El Paso, I'll be the chair next year. I wanted to circle back to the sorry, to the emails, like how to establish more of like a boundary, a healthy boundary when it comes to responding to emails because it these are people that you also see like in your workplace, but this isn't work related, but it kind of is. Like when it comes to these I don't want to call it an extracurricular, but like El Paso, the WiA and the AIA, like how do you balance that as well as a young professional?
Such a good question. I will say we do. So I guess all the worlds are colliding because one of our sessions in the next couple days has to do with like how to speak up without burning out. So
Mhm.
we will probably ask, this is like a continuation of that, but what are your thoughts? How do you, it sounds like especially like, how do you give to an organization, but not overgive, keep your boundaries, focus on your day job, right? Like, uh, I'll open it up to everyone because that could go to Alexandra or Danielle as well. Anybody else, anyone pop in?
I would say that again, it's hard because we have day jobs, and then you also are volunteering to doing this effort in order to make it happen. I think for us, chair, it's hard. It's harder because you delegate, but then if nobody's who you delegate it to, it's not doing the task, then you have to step up and do it because otherwise that specific event will not happen. So there is a give and take sometimes, but as much as you can delegate and then dedicate time, there are pressing items that sometimes will have to have email a certain for coordination events. But if you just, I don't know, leave it for your weekends or program the emails, I would program a lot of emails to go out, especially for WiA in general. Or I would start the email saying, I'm sending you this on a Sunday, but you don't have to act on it right now. Because we know that you're not like, we send it to our liaison, and our liaison, it is hired by the AIA, but she doesn't have to act on it on like a 5:30 on a Sunday because that's the time that I had time to sit down and write that email per se. But yeah, it also depends on the level of involvement that you have. So I don't know if Stephanie or Danielle would like to also comment on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for me, and I think it's something that we've talked about in the past, but it's, depending on your chair elect and just your community, to, because it's not a one person job, but it is there. That is the reason why we have a board, and then also, um, try to get as many volunteers as possible. I think we've talked about it before too, that it is tiring and it does get to the point, but just try to remember, what the end goal is, and that it it's very rewarding to be chair, but also do take some time for yourself too, because it can burn you out, and you don't want to get burned out in the middle of the year, when you still have a full year to go. So yeah, that's what I would say. Ask for help as much as possible, right? And then just count with the people that are, if people are offering help, then accept it, and don't try to be a superhero, and don't
Yeah.
try to do it everything on your own.
I would say too, because this happens for students, like let's say you're in a club and now you're like an officer and you're doing a lot of things. I think it's really important to like understand, like really take stock of reality, because sometimes like whatever club you're in, or in our case, like this feels like it's so important, but it's like and I think it's really hard for a lot of us. It's like it's okay to be a B in this. Like, you know what? Like you're so used to always being like an A plus grade, top of the curve setting person, that I bet you your B level effort is like still stellar. And it's still okay. Like I think giving, like you have to have like a sense of like what is really important. And, for you, it might be like you're in a club that's like really your schooling might be way, that can't suffer. So you have to kind of like find like, your day job can't suffer. You can't say, sorry, I was doing all this stuff for this club I'm a part of, or this nonprofit or this organization. And so I think it's okay to give yourself permission to go, maybe this won't be the stellar programming, but you know what? It's still probably going to be good. And like you said, you get people to help, but it's okay if it's not. And because sometimes a lot of us are used to being the one who, kind of like Andrea and I talked about, like everyone else bailed on this group project, I guess I'm staying all hour. Is no, we can also, like we could put it, like I would embrace being a B for things that aren't like the top, like your number one priority, it's okay. But so I will be a Gen X slacker there and say
No, Janky, you nailed what kind of my thoughts were, and Isis, you and I will be going in, to this chair
Mhm.
experience together for 2026. But I think sometimes your best, even though it's not perfect, is good enough and makes still a large impact. And like that's what really matters. And I think Alexandra, you mentioned, this is a volunteer position, and like stepping up and volunteering is a lot. Like that in itself is
Mhm.
a massive effort, a massive list. So like you're already doing the thing. So if it's not perfect, it's all right. It is
Yeah,
okay
and
because
don't,
you're
yeah,
already doing the thing.
I
So
would,
I
I
think
agree.
that's been my experience so far. And it's like, dang, we're already like putting on an entire panel. That's amazing. And that's gonna make impact. And it doesn't have to be
Mhm.
to a T perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally,
I
totally.
will always refer it to, again, I don't know if everybody has planned a wedding or a big event. I feel like whoever is planning it would know every single detail, but if nobody else sees an error, even if there's an error, nobody else is gonna notice. And
Oh,
you're
they
gonna
won't
see
notice the
around, yeah.
napkins or whatever,
They
right?
will miss, yeah, they will miss the one little like, oh my God, they didn't have the centerpiece at this one table. It does not look perfect. They would not even know because we were the ones who, so don't be so hard on ourselves with those things as well. Sometimes, yeah, letting go. It is, it's part of the key. I wanted to thank you all. I please take a moment to add your LinkedIn information if for anybody wants to connect with us separately. I'm gonna start sharing because we do have a couple announcements to make for the end of the sessions. But thank you all. The conversation was amazing. This is gonna stay recorded. If you had friends that couldn't join it, eventually they will come and see this. So yes, hold on. Make me do my share my screen. There we go. Can you see the Q&A?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. That's what I want to make sure. Okay, so upcoming events. Tomorrow we have Done with School, Now What? At the same time, same link, different moderators, different panelists. And on Wednesday, we have Speak Up Without Burnout. So also log in, same time, same Zoom link, different moderator, different panelist, and different presenters too. We're trying to take turns here and help each other for the same reason that we were just talking about. And then November 13th, WiA Austin is having their in-person happy hour at the Farmhouse Stone for those who can make it and are in the Austin area. We would love to see you there, including panelists and moderators. And I know in November 14, WiA Paso will have their film crawl and then we'll have their happy hour. Is that correct, Stephanie?
Um, yes. So we are gonna be doing a happy hour on November 14th from 9 to 1 for the students. Please sign up. We have a Instagram post and then we also have a link on our Instagram. I'll share our Instagram now so everybody can see it. And then on Thursday, the 13th, we're having an event with one of our sponsors, Stitch and Sip, for those who are over 21 and who would like to join us. It's a networking event and then it's also a WiA Wellness event. And those are all part of this Salon series.
Awesome. And then next up, we didn't want to go without making this announcement, especially for the college students that are in the School of Architecture here in UT. We our scholar program just launched. So scan this QR code, and if you know anybody would need this help, where our applications are due January 26th. And then I'll turn it over to one of the WiA El Paso girls.
Yeah, and then for those students, or for those students who are going to be either attending Texas Tech next year or are already their years at Texas Tech and are going to continue with Texas Tech for your fourth year, we do have a WiA El Paso scholarship in memory of Mabel Welch. The deadline for that already ended for this year, but it's going to be starting again next year. It is through Texas Tech and through the Texas Architectural Foundation. So please look at their website, keep an eye out for the upcoming deadline for next year, and hopefully somebody can get it.
Perfect. And last but not least, thank you so much for everyone who joined us.